Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 257. I got it right this week of At Odds with Wrestling. Joe and Adam here. Adam, hello. How are you?
I'm doing good, Joe. I figured out a way to keep my PlayStation online. It doesn't kick me off for being inactive. So while I'm sitting here recording this pod, my GTA character is gaining money. So it's an awesome situation. I'm very happy.
So, you just have to have it on, and you don't have to like do anything else, like duct tape something down on a button so it's doing something?
No, so like there are certain businesses that just gain money in the background, and you have to be active online. But the way that the system works is you have to, if you're inactive for 15 minutes, it kicks you off. But there is a certain thing I found out that if you do this one thing, as long as you keep your controller plugged in for power, the system stays online. So the entire time I'm on this podcast, I'm getting richer and richer, Joe. I'm very happy.
Do you plan on sharing this information with your Grand Theft Auto compatriot, Todd?
Nope. He gets nothing. Nothing. He's cut off. He's cut off, Joe. I'm mad at him.
Why are you mad at Todd, of all people? Who could be mad at Todd?
Well, I mean, who isn't mad at Todd? Because he drafted Kenny Pickett in the fantasy football draft, and he did it out of spite. No matter what he tells anybody, he did it out of spite. Like, it's just a little silly bit, and I was trying to make a league that had no silly little bits, and then Todd goes and does it, and it makes me mad. So he's cut off. He's getting no Grand Theft Auto money. So,
is Kenny Pickett on the Steelers?
He is. He's the Steelers' franchise quarterback, future Hall of Famer. And this is his breakout year.
But didn't you say, because I listened to the Sportsy, whatever it's called, the draft special? The draft special?
Yes.
It's over on the Patreon. You don't need to pay for this one, but you need to have Patreon off, right?
Yep.
You said you weren't going to draft any Steelers.
Joe, that was a lie. That was so that certain people would not feel the need to I'm just going to grab this guy so Adam doesn't, he won't be here when I go around the next time. But I had a plan going into the draft. Obviously, I knew I was picking first because I paid you the money to select me first.
Right. And check cleared, by the way.
Great. Good to hear it. So I knew I was getting Mahomes number one. It's a 2-quarterback league, so you got to go heavy on quarterbacks. And I did a couple of mock drafts, and I actually got most of the players that I planned for. But I had always planned on just grabbing Pickett as a backup, right around the time that I was going to get him. But Todd got him, and he's like, well, I need to take him because of bye weeks. And I looked into it. There was no reason for it other than spite.
So you purposefully kept me and Ed out of the draft because you were afraid that Ed and I would do silly little bits. And then I, on After Dark this week, say, well, I'm glad Adam only picked one person who's doing a silly little bit in the thing, which was Todd. And it turns out you were doing a silly little bit. Is this the silly little bit league? Should it have just been you, Todd, me, and Ed?
It wasn't a silly little bit. It was a ruse, a cunning attempt to deceive. That's not a silly little bit.
Well, Adam, I will say next time that you plan a bit, a ruse, a deceit, ring a bell ahead of time so everyone knows that you're up to something.
Well, if you let people know you're up to something, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Well, my bit that I'm doing with the AIW show, with the J-Lit coming up, I called my shot ahead of time. I said, as they announce everyone, I'm going to say this is my pick to win it, right?
Yeah.
And I did for every entrant, and then when the last entrant was announced, I said, hey, I'm probably going to do a thing where I say, as the match announcements are coming out, this is my pick for match of the night.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you do a bit and you're not known for bits, if you say that you're doing a bit ahead of time and then you actually have to go through with the bit, then I think that makes the bit better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully I'm not known for bits.
Mm-hmm. Right. So like I said, next time, ring a bell, people, and so that's the thing. You ring the bell, nobody knows why Adam is ringing a bell, you do your silly little bit, and everyone's like, what the hell, Adam? And you're like, I rang a bell, I let you know I was doing something, so that's plausible deniability there.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I'll steal one next time I'm at a counter for service,
Right. There you go. Or just like a bell sound effect or something, you know?
I'd rather a physical bell I can hit and tinker with on mic so the noise, yeah.
Maybe get a train whistle, you know, something.
All right, cool.
And a potato filter, but that's it. It's a joke for one person, but that's okay. Hey, what was I going to say? Maybe, you know what, though? Maybe Todd will pick got that guy up to you, Kenny Pickett or whatever, in the trade or something, you know?
Well, that was another one of his bits. He's like, I'm going to just have the team that I drafted. I'm not going to pick anybody up or drop anybody. It's just going to be, this is the team I drafted, so this is the team I'm going to have all season, which, A, is the second dumbest fantasy strategy behind picking a kicker in the 6th round, and B, it's a silly little bit. And it's just like, come on, man, take this league seriously. It's big money.
And again, it could have been bigger money if you had me and Ed in there, but I'm just saying. But I listened as much as I could. I know Marcus was taking it very seriously. I know Pat was taking it very seriously. And listen, I like to support the crew and everything else like that. But as you guys are going through the draft, and Pat's like, 50th pick overall. And I'm like, 50th pick overall? I'm like, how much time is left in this podcast? And I looked, there was like an hour left. And I'm like, I'm fucking done. Yeah. Like, I already picked their goddamn football players, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was a 2-hour, the draft itself is 2 hours long, and there was like maybe 15 minutes of BS at the beginning. So it's a slog, and even I don't know who anybody is past like the 12th round, you know?
Again, way to sell it. It's a slog.
Well, I mean, it's yeah, all right, you got me there.
Like, hey, everybody listen, it sucks.
No, I just meant like it's difficult, like at the end, you know, because it's a lot of me, especially when it got to me. I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know. I'll just take this guy. I don't know who it is, but I'll take him. So
I could see if you're an NFL guy, if you're a fantasy guy, like you would probably be riveted by something like this. But like after Patrick Mahomes, I think like out of the first like 2 rounds you guys did, it was Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers were the only 2 names I recognized. Okay, so I don't even know when so think about that. Patrick Mahomes gets picked first. Aaron Rodgers got picked wherever, okay?
Yeah, probably like the 7th round or something like that.
Okay, so in between all of that, you guys were just saying names. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what the fuck that means, right? But I want to be supportive. And just lastly, we'll get into our show here, but like Todd and I were going back and forth because we're recording Previewing the Past this week. And it's like the biggest previews catalog that we've done to date. And we said that every week, but it's like, this one was the biggest one. It's like, oh shit, like now 2 months later, like this is the biggest one. And I actually went, before I sent out the tweet, I'm like, okay, how many pages is this one? When was the last biggest one? And when's the next biggest one after this? So when I say this is the biggest one, I could say this is the biggest one, make a note for myself. The next one is until January. But even Todd was like, he's doing his research for it now before we record this weekend. And he's like, this is going to be like a 4-hour show. And and I'm like, oh, we'll like release it in 2 parts or something. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But we'll figure out something. And I'm looking forward to it. And it's one of those things where, you know, and I say on the main show, it's like maybe you just don't have time to listen to a 4-hour podcast. And I know those people out there that don't. But, you know, we have so much fun recording it. In my mind, I'm like, oh, you'll have as much fun listening to this as we're having fun recording this.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy it, and that's not me blowing smoke, because, like, I obviously started reading comics back then, so I get the nostalgia bite with it. But just you know what, since we were talking about football, Joe, and fantasy football, we might as well go ahead and throw one last plug in for the soon-to-be-named Network Pick'em League.
Oh, get it up front, like, not instead of at the end. Like, we don't want to do it during weekly purchases, the part that everyone skips.
Yeah, Ed, God.
Listen, it was a concerted effort to put it at the end of the show, just in case you're like, okay, I don't give a fuck about toys. I could end the show, you know? It's...
Oh, sure, I'm not just busting balls there, but obviously, as far as the league goes, go ahead.
I was going to say, as we are speaking right now, there is a week left to sign up for it, right?
Yep.
And, you know, it's just a straight Pick'ems league. If you go to longboxheroes.com, it's the first post that's there. You know, I'll have it as, like, the main front post for, like, even, like, a week afterwards, just so, like, people are remembering to do their picks or whatever. Now, I already did my picks, but my kid volunteered. He's like, oh, I'll do the picks again this year. Like, I used to have it when he was, like, a baby, you know?
Okay.
So I might have him like redo my picks. I don't know.
Why don't you just make another one for him, and then you could compete against him? I
could do that, but I don't know if he would care. Like, he cared in the moment when I was talking about it yesterday. When I bring it up to him like tomorrow, he's probably not going to care anymore. So,
well, make a login or whatever for him and just have it handy. And if it doesn't get used, it doesn't get used.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Wrestling.
We got lots of wrestling talk to talk about. So let's get into it.
And now, At Odds with Wrestling presents This Day in Wrestling History.
All right, so we are going to go backwards from newest to oldest. I have a reason why.
Okay.
I want to also say no paparazzi production this week either. It's like a 3-week drought.
That's why TNA didn't catch on. They should have embraced that.
I agree. However, on this day, wrestling history, 4 years ago, if you want to feel very old, AEW held the pay-per-view All Out. And it featured such matches as, in the Cracker Barrel Clash match, Darby Allin versus Joey Janela versus Jimmy Havoc.
This wasn't the first All Out.
No.
Okay, because that was All In.
Oh, well, no. So, okay, you had All In.
Yeah. I get those.
They did a pay-per-view before this. Double or Nothing was the first pay-per-view. That would have been like May. And then this is the first All Out in Chicago. Because All In was Chicago the year prior. Now the year later, All Out is this, right?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Because AEW kind of started like 5 years ago. I got it. All right.
Right. But, Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela in a match on pay-per-view. But in real things, we had Pac versus Kenny Omega.
All right.
We had Riho versus Hikaru Shida. We had Pentagon and Rey Fenix versus the Young Bucks. A lot of familiar names that are still there kicking around in like heavy spots, The big Cody versus Shawn Spears match.
Yeah, who could forget?
Right? Who could forget? The main event to crown the first ever AEW champion of Chris Jericho taking on Hangman Adam Page.
Probably still looking for that belt in that parking lot.
Right, and they brought that up on TV this past week. Yeah. But yeah, just crazy to think that 4 years ago, that feels like forever ago.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that long ago for a new promotion. I'm just looking at this card, as you mentioned, many of the names. I'd say 40% aren't on TV anymore. Like maybe they're in Ring of Honor, or maybe they're gone, or whatever, or backstage.
Okay. And again, you're gonna make me do my gazintas, but 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of the people are still on-air regular characters on a weekly basis.
Okay, but are you counting Ring of Honor?
No, I'm just counting straight up mainline AEW.
Okay, I mean, but there's still, I was trying to count, but I can't count in silence without taking my shoes off here. But Daniels isn't there anymore.
Right, Kazarian's not there.
Marco Stunt, Jimmy Havoc, as you mentioned, Janela. Stu Grayson's on Ring of Honor, I guess, Yeah,
no, I wasn't counting that. I wasn't counting any of the SoCal Uncensored guys. I wasn't even counting Pac. I wasn't counting Uno or Stu Grayson because they're not regularly on TV,
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
But it's higher than you think,
Yeah.
It's crazy to think of the turnaround from All In a year prior to this to this show. It's crazy to think of May 4 years ago to August 4 years ago, the turnover on that show.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people disappearing, and less than half of them are because of CM Punk.
Oh, well, we'll get in that too.
All right.
Also on this day, 25 years ago, under normal circumstances, we would have our head-to-head Nitro versus Raw. However, Raw is preempted this weekend next for the U.S. Open.
Oh, I would have guessed Dog Show.
No, Dog Show is February, U.S. Open is summer.
Okay. So unopposed, WCW probably had a great night of television.
Okay, so unopposed, they do the biggest number Nitro ever does. I think they do like a 6.4 overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into what they do on the show, right? So, of course, we have the ongoing saga with Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Now, I'm not going to play the full Hulk Hogan promo that started the
Warrior.
show.
Yeah, we just want Warrior.
Well, again, you have to bear with us. Now, a lot of this is visual, but I think it bears playing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know something, boss? That's a great idea. Everybody knows he's the biggest coward, that he's still running in his little moccasins away from Hollywood. And I'm sick of playing the games. I'm sick of waiting. The hell with war games. Get your butt out here right now, Warrior, and I'll kick it for you.
He's called the Warrior out.
He shouldn't have done that.
Be careful. You may get what you asked for, Hollywood.
Let's hope so.
The target is scope and lock for destruction.
I love they added the audio clip.
And almost immediately.
Those patented Warrior catchphrases. It's like, can you dig it, sucker?
Another spectacular entrance. And another spectacular moment on Nitro.
Now,
the Warrior is here.
At first, I was thinking like, oh, it's going to be like a fake or something. But no, it's really the Warrior coming out, right?
Yeah. At least they went with the slower tempo music so he doesn't have to blow up running out to the ring.
Yeah, like, the entrance is cool. Like, look, with the day glow on the jacket. Like, he looks cool.
A little backtracking now, I would think, aren't they?
Well, they wanted him, and now they got him.
And you can hear him. The Warriors out there. The fans who have joined this one Warrior Nation.
I wonder if I still have my membership card.
Oh, boy.
Warrior!
Oh, and he stole Kane's pyro.
He puts his hands up lackadaisically at the end.
He's like, I don't know what
The Fire Warrior stands for the fear in your eyes. All the NWItes are here. All the black and white is around the ring. They are here to watch Hollywood crucify you.
Oh, wait a minute.
Lights go out! The lights go out!
Warriors literally in the ring for 30 seconds.
Warriors!
Let me talk to you, Warriors.
Yeah.
What in the world is...
Where is he? He's gone.
The Warrior has vanished.
Well, where'd they all come from?
Just as quickly as he appeared, he's disappeared. Incredibly memorable.
Okay. So during Warrior's entrance, the rest of the NWO black and white snuck down to the ring, and it's not even full forced. No Giant, no Stevie Ray, no Jericho, of course, because that angle's dead. And they were gonna get Warrior. So Warrior walks into a trap to just show off his magic abilities.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm just looking at who's in the ring there. It's Crush, Vincent, Perfect, Beefcake, and who's that other guy next to Perfect?
Scott Norton.
Oh, okay, it's small. I can't tell. Looks like Tank Abbott.
I wish it was Tank Abbott. So again, this is how we start the show for Nitro this week. So the main event is Hollywood versus Wolfpack Explode as Lex Luger and Sting of the NWO Wolfpack take on Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Mr. Hitman, right?
Okay.
Now, let's go to the closing moments of this match, because earlier, during the match, Hogan started cheating and whipping Sting with his weight belt. Brett, Hogan's partner, takes the weight belt off Hogan and walks out. Hogan follows him up the ramp, and they both get counted out. NWO Wolfpack wins the match, right?
Yeah, and like Perfect wasn't really like a full-fledged NWO guy, right? At this time.
And again, they're telling us that Mr. Hitman is not a member of the NWO, but he is Hollywood's top recruiter, is what they called him.
Of course, okay.
Right. So let's get into the closing moments of this Nitro.
Norton's in. Yeah, we play by NWO rules. You keep your nose out of NWO rules. You abide by the rules, or you're gonna die by the rules. Come on, my turn now.
Oh, wait a second.
Coming back.
Let me tell you something.
In the midst of turmoil. The ring.
Don't go anyplace. Don't leave that set.
1 Mississippi.
The ring is
2
filling up.
3, 4. There's Warrior.
And the Warriors appeared again.
From where?
Wearing a different jacket.
And like everybody's laid out, but it was clear
There's bodies
that, like,
everywhere.
Every member of the NWO Black and White is face down. Hogan's hiding.
Scope and lock for destruction.
Smell the fear? Hogan, you can get up. We can smell your fear.
And you can see it. He wants no part of the Warrior.
Pete, don't fail me now.
maybe it was knockout gas.
That's what I'm...
And fans, we're out of time. See you Thursday night.
So I guess the intention is that Warrior took everyone out, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have enough time to do it. Everyone just lays down. So, like, okay, well, maybe it's the effects of the gas. Okay, how come the gas doesn't knock Hogan out? How come the gas doesn't knock, like, all the fans around ringside out, you know?
It has a limited range of effect, you know?
And again, I imagine, even though, like, Warrior ends the promo the previous 2 weeks with, like, the same Warrior time, same Warrior station, like, I guess he's the Batman, the avenging hero against whatever, but this is, like, very, like, Joker-level shit, where Warrior is, like, making the gas special, so it only works on certain people, and he's, like doing all these experiments and stuff, whatever, right?
Yeah, I think if you have a hot dog tan, you're like immune to it. That's why Warrior and Hogan were fine.
That you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, also from this episode of Nitro, again, we got to get the bookends of the show, the Hogan Warrior stuff. That's your big storyline. But we are heading into Fall Brawl. The teams are set. Team WCW is, I think, DDP, Piper, and Ultimate Warrior. Team NWO is Hogan, Mr. Hitman, and Stevie Ray. And Team Wolfpack is Nash, Sting, and Luger. But okay. Nash has some important words for us.
He always does.
And you need to watch this very closely, Adam.
If he's on my screen, I'll watch it.
And the last thing, and I'm going to have to say this so you'll understand it, because you don't talk like the rest of us. So, Warrior, there's an old story about an ancient warrior that walked alone. He fell asleep underneath a tree, and when he woke up, there were 4 wolves looking at him.
Here.
One of the wolves seemed to look familiar, and when he reached out to pet the wolf, it took off his hand.
Intense gaze.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 joined into the feeding fury.
Frenzy.
The only thing we've got to say is this: if you're not red and black and you get in that cage, it's quite simple. If you don't run with the pack, you're hunted by it.
Sexy.
So 2 reasons, of course. That is where the famous Nash raising his eyebrow meme comes from.
Yeah.
A very famous GIF. And Nash is a GIF machine, right?
Oh, 100%. When you look like that, people want to see your face on their phone forever.
And listen, Adam, how dare you critique Kevin Nash for fucking up that part where you're supposed to say feeding frenzy and feeding fury. Imagine trying to recite all of those words on TV high as fuck.
You know what? You are right. I feel bad. He was, you know what? Maybe it is feeding fury. I was probably wrong.
Right. Listen, I defer to Kevin Nash when it comes to these sort of things, right?
This is true. That's where I learned about looking at the adjective.
Right. He's speaking at a different level than we all are, right?
Exactly.
But lastly, and this, is going to dovetail into what we're doing, of course. So on this day, Adam, 40 years ago, and again, I know we don't talk about wrestling that happened 30 years ago, let alone 40 years ago. But 40 years ago today is the day of the infamous, world-famous Terry Funk Forever promo.
All right. I'll acknowledge that this happened.
Right. So again, obviously, it happens on this day in wrestling history, and we're going to do what we can every week to bring some sort of Terry Funk to you, the listeners. I know We Need Wrestling have something planned, but I do want to play this. I'm not going to just play the forever part. I did try to find the longest clip of the promo that I could, and this is the best I could do. It's only about a minute, but bear with.
Japan, number one.
Listen to that crowd.
Goodbye, I love you.
もう本当にたまりません。日本は大好きだというふうに言いましたね、山田さん。
そうですね。最後の最後まで日本
Giant Baba out there, of course.
そして日本語でさよならさよならというふうに武井さん言いましたね。
しかしですね、日本の方はみんなテリーが帰ってくることを待ってます。
I worked hard. I wanted to have the best if we're going to acknowledge Terry. But again, it's always so interesting that, everyone knows the forever, but there's the part in the beginning there where it's Japan is forever, and that's,
yeah.
And this is with his Japanese retirement, which he would kind of hold for maybe about 10 years before he comes back to the States. And, he's in WWE not less than 2 years after this. But yeah, I'm still, and I want to say this, of course, we still do the Terry Tuesday stuff on social media. And this past Terry Tuesday, it was an outpouring. It was more people involved, more people interacting with the stuff than ever before. And I would love to keep that sort of engagement. And listen, I'm not a guy who looks at my social media numbers, but I am a guy who wants people to remember Terry Funk. And, if this is my dumb way of doing it, playing a clip on the show and tweeting out a picture every Tuesday. And, I'm going to do it as long as I got the ability to do it,
Yeah.
And, yeah.
No, hell yeah. I haven't been on Twix very much lately, but I got to go in and check out a Terry Tuesday one of these days.
Is calling it Twix worse than calling it X? I'm not sure.
I like it.
Okay.
One of the few good things Mr. Tim has done in a long time.
No. Listen, his mama called it Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, let's get into what we watched or what we want to talk about from this last week of professional wrestling. How about that?
All right. I'll start things off this time?
This time, yes. And next week I'll go first.
All right. You know what? I don't have one specific thing I want to go in depth about, but I do want to talk a little bit about All In. And obviously you and I both went to soon-to-be-named Network North and hung out with Brett and DJ and the aforementioned Mr. Tim and Michelle briefly. And we watched it and had a good time. But as far as my highlights from it, the things I wanted to talk about, just a couple quick bullet points. Really liked the House of Black and the white gear. I am looking forward to getting those figures in about 3 years. And I liked, Buddy Murphy coming out with the lantern for Bray. I thought that was cool. Seek and Destroy as the intro music for Sting and Darby, and having like 80,000 people sing along to that. Like that was the reaction that Jericho hoped he was going to get for Judas in my mind. The Stadium Stampede bloodbath with Mox with the skewers in his head and OC taping his fist and then dipping him in glass. And I'll just say lastly, and obviously I'm sure you have some takes on some of this, but the main event that I was very invested in going into, they had a fake out that I hated for the finish. I think all of us in the room were like, oh, they're going to never be able to book an arena bigger than 30,000 if they go home with this. But they ended up restarting the match, and I liked the little bit where Cole was very bitter towards MJF about losing, and MJF was calling him out on it. But overall, I thought it was a very good show. Skipped the women's match, skipped a couple other things here and there, but I like the pay-per-view.
So, again, we've talked about this. I'm not an Adam Cole guy. I'm not an MJF guy. I thought the match was very good for what it was on the big stage and everything like that. I am glad that it wasn't the end of the storyline like I thought it would be. Yeah. I don't even think this weekend is going to be the end of the storyline. Like, on the pre-show when they won the Ring of Honor tag titles, we're all like, what? Now what the fuck's going to happen? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm much more interested in a storyline that keeps you guessing, as long as it's done logically. Like, if I could see the path and we take some twists and turns to get there, that's cool. But don't just, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere. Like, okay, so you know what the worst thing that could happen in all of this is MJF turns on Adam Cole and Roddy, Taven, and Mike Bennett are the new Pinnacle.
Oh,
right. So again, nobody would see that coming because it wouldn't make any fucking sense. It would be stupid. So that's like the worst thing that could possibly happen. So I'm just putting that out in the ether so that it hopefully doesn't happen. Right?
Yeah, I gotta light some sage or something to get that idea out of this.
Now, can I talk about? So it's a wrestling pet peeve of mine. Okay. And it really came to a head on the pay-per-view this past week. And I'm sick and tired of it. And the fact that it was on such a big stage, I think, shone such a big light on it. And I have to walk you through it, okay? So it's during the tag title match of the Bucks and the FTR, right? And I thought the match was really good. I thought the match over-delivered. I had, like, very little faith going into the match just for, I don't like the Bucks. And, whatever's going on in Cash's life, So there's a bit in the match where they're trading finishers, and they're hitting each other's finishers on each other and whatever it is. And Cash just got hit with something, and Dax is there to check on him, right?
Yep.
And the Bucks are coming back into the ring, and Dax gets up, and the way the camera is shot, you could see the Bucks behind him, and Dax is just standing there, and he's acting, and he's selling. Oh no, I know they're behind me. What do? Do I turn around and they hit me? Well, I guess I have no choice. And he turns around and goes right into them doing the big rig, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of started with a lot of the MJF, Adam Cole stuff where it's like, oh, I know you're going to do it. Here's the belt. I'm going to turn my back and I'm going to wait for you to hit me, okay?
Doesn't he know if you don't turn around, you're invulnerable to that attack?
Or you're literally right next to the ropes. Get the fuck out of the ring. Pull your guy out of the ring.
Yeah.
Like, it points out to you what a stupid motherfucker you are. And so many people do it, and I don't want to blame the Adam Cole MJF stuff, but they do it like every third week of the storyline. And for FTR, who claim to be like, we're these old school tag team wrestlers, and they do dumb shit like that. And oh my God, I hated it so much. Like any bit of enjoyment I was getting out of that match, it was gone until the Bucks lost. And then I was very happy again.
I think I missed that spot. I might have been ripping the heater, but I know what you're talking about. Like, obviously, you don't have to do anything other than use your imagination.
Right.
But any other thoughts from the pay-per-view?
Yes. I thought Stadium Stampede was good. It was a very tough match to shoot, especially with 10 people in it all over. They tried to split screen the stuff, but the fact that it's a continuation of the Eddie stuff, with Claudio, it's a way to get Santana or Ortiz, Mike Santana and Ortiz back on TV.
Can we call him like Bob Ortiz or something like that so there's balance?
No.
Come on, Mike Santana and Bob Ortiz.
No. I gotta think. I gotta think of something else, like more white, like Mitch Ortiz or something.
Mitch Ortiz, all right.
Yeah, because Mike Santana just doesn't sound right. But anyway, but we get like a big moment for the best friends, and we talked a little bit before. Chuck and Trent were on, the first pay-per-views and everything. They were factored in to be a big piece. Pandemic happens. They were kind of like the MVPs of things. They got like a token title shot against the Bucks once everything kind of came back. And then they were kind of like forgotten about for a while. And they'd pop in and then be forgotten about. And, whatever. But they get their big moment. But obviously the star of the show, the star of that match is OC. Orange Cassidy. We are Orange Cassidy fans forever. We're long, dyed in the wool. I got no problem saying I consider OC a friend of mine. I've known OC now coming up almost on 20 years, Mm-hmm. So to see him do that moment, and he gets the tape, and he puts the sticky side out, and he smashed the bottle, and I just start freaking the fuck out. And I'm like, I couldn't think of the words. I go, he's gonna do the glass Superman punch, and he's doing the Type 8 death thing. I'm like, that's the words I was thinking of. And then they do the tease of it, and then they tease it, and then he fucking hits it. Oh, it was such a great moment. And then at the presser, they set up, for TV this week that he's gonna have the match with Penta, and then we'll get into everything else from there. But for all in, an incredible moment. To see OC in front of 80,000 people. Like, when this show was announced, the two things that I wanted to happen, and listen, fuck Kenny Omega, fuck Will Ospreay, fuck all these people, right? I wanted to see Orange Cassidy come out to his theme song and get a huge ovation from 80,000 people, and I wanted to see Eddie Kingston come out to his theme song and get an ovation from 80,000 people. And Double J, which he did get on the pre-show, but...
That was only maybe 50,000 at that.
Right, it was like 50s, yeah, like 57. I was counting heads. That's why I missed it. But that's the two things I wanted, and that's the two things I got out of All In.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is awesome, especially, your situation where these are people you've known forever, and you saw them perform in such small venues and whatever, and to see them in this situation, it's got to be humbling, and you got to be proud. I think that's really cool,
Mm-hmm.
And I think more on OC versus Penta later out of my end. But
yeah, me too. But go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, that's all. The other thing I was going to talk about. Do you have anything non-AEW to talk about?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. So,
all right.
Obviously,
let me talk to you.
Let me talk to you. You said it. Hang on. I wasn't prepared. You threw it to me. So, where the hell is it? All right. So, last week's show, obviously, in light of everything that happened, the passing of Terry Funk on Wednesday, the passing of Wyndham Rotundo on Thursday, as we recorded, we were sitting here speculating what they were going to do for SmackDown, and they did like a half and half. And, we were talking to people, whether it be in person, in the Discord or whatever, of is it weird? Is this tribute show weird? And, we were even talking when we were up at soon-to-be-named Network North about it. It's just that we were thinking, when was the last time an active roster member passed away while they were an active roster member? And I think we had talked in the last one was Benoit.
Yeah, because, Brody obviously was in AEW at the time, And
Mr. Tim pointed out even the Benoit one, they sent everyone home. They did the Vince promo in the empty arena, and they showed a whole bunch of old Benoit matches with the talking head stuff. So even to go further back, the last time that they did a tribute show was when Eddie Guerrero passed away, which was November of 2005. So WWE has changed a lot in the last 5 years, let alone WWE has changed a lot in the last 18 years. So I don't want to say that they don't know how to do these shows anymore, which is good that they don't have to do these sort of shows anymore where there's people on the active roster that are dying.
Yeah, it's a good thing to forget how to get out of practice on.
But I think they walked the line. They did a balance. They did a lot of tribute stuff on a lot of their online things. There's like a 40-minute video where they sit down and they talk to a bunch of different people who tell stories. I know Becky Lynch did a little tribute like after Raw as well, which is a really great story. If you didn't see that, check that out. But the highlight of the show for SmackDown for me, and listen, we're separating things and we're walking a very fine line, is that they have Cody do the promo eulogizing Terry Funk, and whatever your opinion of Cody is, whatever my opinion of Cody is, I thought Cody did a great job, all things considered. That story that he told about being 11 years old in the airport with his dad, and then just all of a sudden across from the airport, you just hear a voice calling his dad an egg-sucking dog.
The first thing Cody's ever said on TV that I believe.
Right. I thought that was a fun story, and then LA Knight gets to be the one to eulogize Bray. And obviously, it's a weird position to be in because LA Knight is not a guy that puts his public stuff out there. There's a lot of guys in WWE, like like we were talking about it the other day, like The Miz is who The Miz is, but then you get his social media. It's like, oh, me and the wife are going to see Metallica tonight, or we're going to go see this, or we're going to go do that. You don't get a lot of that from LA Knight, Mm-hmm. And you didn't really get a lot of that from like a Bray Wyatt or whomever. There are guys that are active on social media, but you don't know what they're really like. You don't see them palling around in the big group with all the other guys while they're all active on the roster. Like the closest they came was like mid like NXT run. LA Knight was on Sheamus's workout YouTube channel.
How many times did you watch that video?
Only twice. A lot of tips. I'm like, oh, that's what I've been doing wrong.
Just that one thing.
Well, it was a lot of things. But LA Knight went out there and he had Bray's last televised match, but those two guys were married for almost the entirety of Bray's return run. From the time that he came back late October, November, up until the last house show match that he did, which was the last week of February, they were married. They were together. They were on the road. They were working each other on TV, doing promos, doing segments. They were doing matches at house shows. Between Royal Rumble and Bray's last match, I think they did the house show match as like either as a house show or as a dark match like 9 times. Something crazy like that.
Oh, geez.
So, like, LA Knight can't come out there and break character, but I think he did a really good job, based on the circumstances, getting over what all of that meant to get him to this level, to pay tribute to Bray, and still get over the program, the storyline, and everything else. And on WWE's part, for them to make that decision to let LA Knight be the guy to go out there and deliver that speech makes me think that maybe these two guys over this time were a lot closer than we maybe let. There was like at least 2 times during that promo where it really looked like LA Knight was going to break. But again, you're performing, and listen, we want to see that real emotion, but I think he did as good as a job as he could. He paid tribute to Bray, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but go out of your way to see the LA Knight thing. Obviously if a week ago that stuff with Bray passing was too real, too raw, too new for you, a week removed, I think LA Knight did a really good job. And listen, I'm LA Knight. I'm drinking the LA NyQuil, but I'm not drinking the Nightmare Narcotic. And I say that Cody did a real good job with it as well.
Yeah, I did watch both the tribute shows because they did a lot of the same stuff on Raw, a couple days later. I do agree. Both of them did a good job, and I get what you're saying about LA Knight being a guy who protects kayfabe and, doesn't show any of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I could have still done without him saying stuff like, me and him didn't always see eye to eye, but ... like that's just, hey, we wrestled each other. We were bitter opponents. And I think that's not necessary when you're doing what you're doing there, but I get it. That's the way he is. And I'll say that, like, I didn't watch any of the wrestling on either of the shows because I don't watch WWE anymore, but like I watched the tribute videos and like the 10-bell salute and obviously the Cody and the LA Knight thing. And then I checked out the LA Knight main event of, I think it was SmackDown. And as his music is playing, and then it does the thing where like the lights are going out and the music's breaking up and it's the the Fiend theme music, or not theme music, but the way they introduced him in the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
That was the first time where I was like almost gonna like break down from like somebody dying over the last couple weeks, or over the last week, where it's like it hit me because like just that sound for whatever reason was so closely connected with Bray, like more so now than like the Firefly like Fiend one or the Wyatt family or whatever, but just for whatever reason, the lights going out in sections and the sounds of like the breakers going off, I was like, oh man, I was like, what a good way to end, but I wish they hadn't done it because that hit me hard.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we care a lot about wrestling. This is one of the, obviously when it comes to sports or entertainment or whatever it is, to get an emotional reaction, a real reaction from you, whether it be cheering or booing or anger or happiness or sadness in this, obviously around a death and treating it respectfully, I would certainly hope, I think like for wrestling to still garner that emotion out of people, like it makes me feel like happy to still be a wrestling fan, however long I've been a wrestling fan, almost my whole life.
Yeah, and I mean, terrible circumstances to see it, but it was nice to see like Eric Redbeard was at at least the SmackDown show there. So I don't know what the situation was, but you feel for him, obviously. And obviously, and we can get into it with when we get to Dynamite, but I still got one more WWE thing to talk about before we get there. Is, obviously this happens on short notice. There was a lot of people that you would have liked to have been there, but couldn't been there, whether it be short notice travel issues or the pending storm that's going on in Florida that hampered a lot of people's travels from getting there. I know there was a lot of people in AEW that were able to fly in to Florida from the UK, but were not able to fly out of Florida to make it for Dynamite this past week, which is why Dynamite was such like a weirdly booked show. Yeah.
But before we get to Dynamite, do you have anything else? Because I think we're going to talk a little bit about that for a while,
No, all I want to do is talk about Dynamite, one specific thing.
All right, so it was on my list of things to talk about from last week, but obviously it got bumped for, very good reasons, I would say. And that would be the build that they have been doing on TV with Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know if you've seen either one of these promos.
No, like I said, I completely checked out of WWE.
Okay, do yourself a favor. I'm not going to give them away. But just in the last 2 weeks with these two pre-tape promos, they have done so much to rehab Nakamura, to make him feel like a viable threat and an evil motherfucker.
Okay.
And it's just really amazing stuff that they've done. Now, I will say, I don't think Shinsuke's winning the belt this weekend. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, they need to pull the trigger and have him win the belt this weekend. And I disagree, but you better have a really good fucking plan in place for him afterwards with these video packages the last 2 weeks, and you then just be like, he's just going to go back to just a guy. Then, I don't know, man. Like, I think it would be cool as fuck if he beat Seth for the belt this weekend. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, you bring up exactly what I was thinking. Like, I don't really care if WWE gives me good promos building somebody up if they're just the contender of the month to, like, whether it be Roman or Seth or whatever. Because it's like there's just always this rotating door, a revolving door of just here's the next threat. And I guess that's wrestling, but just if none of them ever win, what's the point? So if yes, you're telling me to go check those promos out, and I probably won't, but if Nakamura doesn't win this weekend, then I'm just going to be like, well, I'm glad I didn't waste my time on those promos because, like you said, they'll just move him down the card again.
Well, I'll tell you, like, and again, let me look at the pay-per-view schedule. I don't know. I think there's a Saudi Blood Oil Money show. Oh, no, we have Payback this weekend, which we'll get to. We have Fastlane, again, everyone's favorite. We have a Saudi Blood Oil Money show, and we have Survivor Series, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a way that they could have Nakamura lose and still do a rematch at the next pay-per-view and keep him, like, strong, brother.
But again, if he gets the rematch and loses that too, What's the point?
Okay, do you want me to send my whole booking packet to you? I already sent one to Tony this week. I sent multiple to Tony this week. I have one that I sent to Paul, another one that involves Ed in a Catgirl outfit inducting Phil into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. It's neither here nor there. But yeah, so what you do is you have Nakamura win the match by count out, by something, because Seth can't answer the bell. He's too physically beaten, right? Mm-hmm. And you do a thing where like Nakamura like maybe intentionally let Seth get counted out, and like Seth is so injured that like medics or officials or whatever need to come and bring him out, bring him to the back, like he can't leave under his own power. And they're like, well, Nakamura, why did you do this? And he's like, well, I did this because I wanted to show Seth that I could beat him up this bad as much as I want and still not take the title from him. And I will continue to do this because I won the match. I deserve a rematch. So I want another match with Seth. And I'm going to do what I did to you last time, but I'm going to do it just a little bit more. But I'm still not going to beat you for the title. And I'm just going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this to you until you can no longer become a wrestler. So now you've lit the fire under Seth. Maybe he stops doing the goofy shit. We get a stipulation match or whatever it is. Nakamura does whatever it is that he did in the previous match. Seth gets back to his feet. Nakamura's incredulous, hits the big move. Seth kicks out. Nakamura's like, all right, I got it. I got to turn it up a little bit. But now Seth gets him maybe even on a fluke pin. And now Nakamura's incensed. You motherfucker. Now he beats the shit out of Seth even more. Seth gets stretchered out. Now we can't do it at Survivor Series. Maybe we do a third match at the Saudi Blood Oil Money Show. But if you start establishing Nakamura as a killer who made a mistake, that he had Seth beat in that first match, but he wanted to punish him that much more, he didn't take the title. Now it fucked him on the second match. Now in the third match, Seth knows all his tricks, blah, 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 blah. And then that's where you get. But again, you still have to, like, doesn't matter if you do one match or two matches or three matches on pay-per-views, you need to have that plan afterwards. It's like, this is great. This is a great little storyline. What's next? What's next for this character that you just spent all this TV time building up to do something with? And now you're just going to shuffle them back down the card. You can't shuffle them back down the card. And again, I got lots of ideas, but let's get through the three-match series first. How about that?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if you want to really sell Nakamura as somebody that's instantly a main eventer, because you're telling me that he's cutting great promos and you're believing that he's a killer. Yeah. Just basically do when you had in the empty arena in Jacksonville when you had Brody versus Cody. And it was just a mauling, and Brody basically jobs out Cody. You know, it's not like Cody all of a sudden was like a joke. You know, people weren't like, oh, well, he's not good because he just lost to Brody Lee in 2 minutes. Like, if you have Seth Rollins basically be Rocky in Rocky 3, you know, I was just caught by Clubber Lang, a guy I just was not, you know, I did not train right for this guy. I was not prepared for the new Nakamura. And then, you know, then he can win it back, whatever. I don't know. Maybe
I like your idea, too. I think both have legs.
Yeah. Well, we're getting good at this.
All right. It's taken 250 some odd episodes, but you're starting to get a mind for this sort of thing.
Yeah. All right. My other thing is the main event from Dynamite. And I'm sure I knew writing this down, I was like, oh, this is a free square because we're both going to talk about it. But you had OC versus Penta, and the winner goes on to lose to Jon Moxley at All Out. And but basically, I just was like, all right, I'm going to watch this match. And I'm like, it's going to be a good match because it's an Orange Cassidy match. You know, I love all of his matches, and Penta's really good too. There was a couple really sick moves in this. There was a point where OC went to do the dive to the outside, and Penta caught him like in a press slam and then launched him into a barrier. I was like, holy shit, that was sick. And if that was the sickest move in the match, I would have been happy. But there was a point where Penta did the Fear Factor. It's kind of like a package pile driver on OC on the apron, and I audibly like gasped, like I screamed because I thought he killed OC. And then he did the same exact thing in the ring, and it looked just as stiff. And so, I mean, Orange Cassidy's taking a goddamn beating, not only in this match, but in all the matches that the most probably the last 10, 15 defenses, because we've talked about many times that like the wear and tear is building up and it's getting worse and it's getting worse and it's getting worse to the point where even his like slow hands in pocket sloth style, even that looks more worn down and slow than it used to, which is impressive. And then ends up, he gets the win, which I thought he was going to, Orange Cassidy, I mean. And afterwards, and this is the thing you're going to want to talk about, I was like, holy shit, I was not expecting that. And I think you have it queued up.
Well, before we get to it queued up, right? So, end of the, like, Penta is an underrated, strong motherfucker, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that's number one. Number two, they're on the apron and they're battling for the package pile driver beach break thing, right? And I'm like, oh, OC, let's give him the beach break on the thing, right? And then Penta gives him the package pile driver on there. And I'm like, oh, shit. They're going to take the belt off OC here. And then he rolls him into the ring and he kicks out. And then, okay. OC's going to make the big comeback. And then, no, Penta hits him with something else and another package pile driver in the ring. And I'm like, oh, my God. And, like, time slowed down for me. And I'm like, they're going to beat OC here. And then he kicked out. And I was jumping out of my chair. I couldn't believe it, right?
Yeah.
They had me, man. Like, it did not matter who this match was announced with. You know, we talked weeks ago that we're getting OC versus Moxley at some point down the road. We thought it was going to be at All In. It ends up that it's going to be at All Out, right? And then I'm looking at the time. The match is over. OC is laid out. But there's still 2 minutes left on the show. And I'm like, what the hell are they going to do? Like, are they going to do a run-in? Are they going to do, like, some sort of, like, big crazy angle? But no. Instead, Adam, they did this.
I am so tired. My body hurts. And every single time I have a title defense, the backpack gets a little heavier. But you know what? I'm here. I'm wrestling. I'm defending the International Championship. Because this means everything to me. This is what AEW is. It's about putting a person that was told, you'll never do anything. You're too skinny. You're too short. You're just a little too different. I'm the champion. And I will continue to defend my championship for as long as I want. And there is nothing anyone can do to take it from me. Jon Moxley, you better bring more than just a fork, because I will always be the international champion, because I'm freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy and I do not have a catchphrase.
Oh.
First of all, fuck the people that are booing them. Like there's a subtle boo in the background. I'm sorry there wasn't enough Phil on the fucking show. You know?
All right. So if I wasn't all ready to go to the ends of this earth for this motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
He goes out there and not only cuts a go-home promo for the pay-per-view, he cuts a money. Guy who does not cut promos ever cuts this unbelievable goddamn promo to sell this goddamn pay-per-view that people are shitting on for every reason under the sun. And Adam, you started out your discussion of this. The winner of this match gets to go to the pay-per-view to lose to Jon Moxley.
After that promo,
you still think that?
No, like that was going to be my next point, is that, like, obviously if you, like, Brett and DJ talk about this all the time, we've mentioned it before, that Moxley's the only person on that roster, like a Moxley, a Danielson, like you're not going to have Omega, but like that level of star is the only person that, like, you and I and fans of Orange Cassidy would accept beating the reign of Orange Cassidy and being like, all right, you know, that's fine. You know, let him go away for a month, get rested up, take a vacation with the family, whatever, come back to the huge pop. It's all a foregone conclusion. But that promo, I said to myself, wait a minute. What if he fucking beats Jon Moxley? Like, you have right now, he's a superstar, But like if he beats Moxley, he's a goddamn made man, and I could see it happening after that promo.
All right. I want to read this to you, Adam. This was sent to me by a friend of ours who is in a Facebook group, not the Facebook group that you're thinking of, but another one. And discussing this very match and this very promo, somebody sent to them this. Now I'm going to read it in this voice, and I don't think this is the person's voice, but Cassidy's the drizzling shits, and you only pretend to like him for some obscure sense of, oh, I get it, you just don't. There's nothing to get. He's another scrawny, overpushed cosplayer. Changes jeans to shorts, and you have an anemic Super Cena cosplayer. Now, I cannot begin to tell you how wrong this person is about every single thing that they said there. I get if that was your opinion 5 years ago, 4 years ago, but I can't imagine you watching the last 4 years of Orange Cassidy's body of work. Hell, just watching his reign as the international champion and coming up and saying that that's what this character is. Maybe you don't understand wrestling. Maybe you are wrong, because this is not a cosplay thing. This is not a Super Cena thing. This is a character who was an underdog, who was overlooked, who was cast aside, just like he said in this promo. And he just went out there and just beat everyone they put in front of him. He's more Roman Reigns than Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns right now.
Yeah, because he's doing it through his own merit as opposed to like figuring out, and it's wrestling, but like he's not exploiting loopholes and ringside interference and all that stuff. He's legitimately on a god run. You know?
Right. And if by this point you don't get Orange Cassidy, there's nothing to get. He's maybe the best professional wrestler around.
And the people who posted that thing that you read, like the people that have that mindset, you can't, like, I get it's very frustrating. Like as you're reading that, I'm like, I want to find this person and fight them.
I'll give you their name when we're done.
Yeah. But like the idea of getting upset about it, you shouldn't, because nothing would ever change their mind because their mind is made up. These are the same people that get their news from Facebook and, you know, do their own research and think that there's a sex trafficking ring under a pizza parlor. Like, you can't bring logic into, you can't be like, here, watch this match, watch this promo, see what he did there. It doesn't matter, because they're just with their hands in their ear, over their ears going, la, 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 la. So there's no sense arguing with them. It's best to just block those people. And if somebody wants to send you a screenshot of like, look at this shitty thing that somebody said about OC, just be like, no, thank you. I don't want to see it, because it's bullshit. And it's just going to get me fired up for no reason, because those people are stupid. Those people shouldn't be allowed to make informed public decisions, but they are. So it's best to ignore them.
So somebody didn't send that to me to try to rile me up. It's somebody.
No, I didn't say that, but I'm just saying, like, it shouldn't be like, don't give a platform to those type of people. Right. If you see something like that, be like, all right, let me just mute you so I never have to see your next opinion, as opposed to being like, oh, can you believe this shit? Let me send it to somebody else, you know?
Right. So here's what I'm going to say. I want to ask this person who his current favorite wrestler is, and I would be willing to bet you $1 million that his favorite wrestler currently is Roman Reigns, right? And I would say, what's your favorite thing about wrestling? A move, a moment, a promo, a something. And no matter what that person told me, I guarantee you I could find a clip of Orange Cassidy doing it to perfection and nailing it, right? He is someone, as I mentioned before, he has been wrestling now for almost 20 years. And he has scraped and clawed to get to the point that he has. He was not given this position, this role, because he knew someone or was friends with someone or whatever ideas that you have in your head are. And if you say in 2023 things like he's scrawny or things like cosplay wrestler or any of those things, you're telling me that you value the opinion of a 70-year-old cuck in Kentucky more than you value your own ability to form an opinion. That being said, in 2023, if you look at Orange Cassidy and you parrot any of those things, whether you're doing it willingly or not, of a Jim Cornette, then fuck you. I'm not saying that you can't watch wrestling. I'm just saying you and I are going to have a difference of opinion, and this is a big difference of opinion. The fact that you are so high and mighty above what modern-day wrestling is, and in your mind, you're going to try to convince me that Roman Reigns is like an old-school champion, like a Harley Race or something like that, and you couldn't be more wrong. Orange Cassidy is more like a Jack Briscoe, or even like an Arn Anderson television champion, if you want to go even more as modern as we possibly can, than you will ever care to admit. And that eats you up inside, and it's killing you slowly. As someone who lives by the adage, I'm going to drink this poison and hope my enemies die, you're literally doing it over the thing that you love or claim to love, professional wrestling.
Yeah. And I just want to make this point. Like, obviously, when AEW was formed, you know, a lot of the indies were kind of like emptied out, in Ring of Honor, obviously, New Japan. Like, but for the most part, when AEW formed, it's like, hey, here's all the top guys on the indies, the Elite, all their buddies, whatever. And then what was left on the indies, Orange Cassidy, at least in my understanding, was, I'll just say conservatively, one of the three biggest stars on the indies prior to him signing with AEW. And when he signed, he was at best a sidekick. He was basically what Danhausen is now. You know, a comedy guy, a background guy. Maybe we'll give him a spot in a tag match, and, you know, maybe we'll sell some merch, whatever. But he was just a guy. And I remember, I'll speak for myself, it was very frustrating as an Orange Cassidy fan. I was like, why isn't he being used? Why is he just walking out the best friends and just doesn't get to do anything? So at no point did he ever give off the allure of knowing somebody backstage or being gifted a role. Like, everything that he's accomplished over the last couple of years has been an organic growth, starting from practically the bottom of AEW television and now being their top guy, like their biggest babyface in the company. So to think that it was just handed to him, oh, he's buddy with somebody backstage, like, then you weren't paying attention to the last 4.5 years of just a slow and steady walk up a hill, and now he's at the top of the hill.
So I'm just going to close out with this. There's a person who currently works for WWE in their developmental, who regularly goes and does creative seminars at other independents. And there's people who I do not respect as independent promoters, and there's people that I respect very highly as independent trainers that curry this man and look to him as he's the end-all, be-all of knowledge of professional wrestling. He is someone who has been creatively bankrupt since 2008 and has not booked an independent promotion in 10 years and has not booked a successful independent promotion in 11 years. And all that being said, when this guy looked at Orange Cassidy, he said, no, we don't need him. He's no good. I'll take Chuck. I'll take Drew Gulak. If he wants to wear the Swamp Monster costume, he can. Maybe we could replace him in the group with Man Scout Jake Manning, but I don't see it. I don't get this guy. So that's your creative visionary that you're giving hundreds of dollars to. So in 2023, he could tell you who the next Austin Theory is. He's the one who handpicked the current Austin Theory. You want his advice on the next one? I wouldn't listen to him. Make up your own mind. Make up your own decisions. Don't be influenced by other people, including me.
But you could be influenced by me.
You want to be influenced by Adam, then you're going to have a lot of grease. But other than that...
Yeah.
All right, that's enough. I didn't expect... I should have played the goddamn all heat, no heaters sort of thing there, but...
No, it's all good. Do you have anything else from this past week?
No, that's it.
Hey, Joe. Did you know that there are 2 pay-per-views this weekend?
I did know this, Adam.
Oh.
Sami Zayn's kicking down to the ring. It's Kofi Kingston doing his thing. Ruby
Soho
on the show.
Bryan Danielson.
No. Is it the
Tribal Chief?
yard? Let's find out. Does Joe know the card?
That's right, Joe. According to Wikipedia, the most trusted source of all wrestling news and information, the World Wrestling Entertainment is holding Payback this Saturday on the award-eligible Peacock Network. There are 6 announced matches. None of them are on the pre-show. Do you know the card?
6 matches, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about it before. We have Seth defending the fake title against Shinsuke Nakamura.
That's one.
We have Gunther defending the Intercontinental title against Chad Gable. Is that official?
It's not official.
Oh, geez. And see, that's the problem. So there was match graphics of this show going around like a week ago.
Yeah.
And I was looking at them and like, that wasn't an official match. They have not mentioned that on TV. Where, like, they're like, this off WWE.com. And I'm like, okay, I guess. I don't know. None of this stuff has been mentioned on TV. So I think that's maybe where a lot of this is in my mind because I saw that graphic, you know?
Yeah, if it's not on Wikipedia, it's not official.
Yeah. Okay, so we have Becky versus Trish in the cage match.
That's 2.
We got Miz versus LA Knight in a match that'll be good.
That's 3.
Do they have any other women's matches? I'm trying to think right now.
Maybe.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Ray versus Austin Theory. I just mentioned Austin Theory, so I think Ray versus Austin Theory is on the show.
That's 4.
Rhea Ripley is because there's another thing. It's like, oh, these were matches that they were building up for SummerSlam, and they never made it on there because that's the other thing where Rhea versus Raquel Rodriguez.
That's 5.
Now, I know you'd said that they haven't officially announced Gunther versus Chad Gable. I know there was a Cody match that was announced, and I don't think this is an official match because it's not a match, but they did announce that they are going to do a Grayson Waller experience with Cody on the pay-per-view. That's what they're advertising to be on the pay-per-view, a Grayson Waller segment, right?
Yeah, I mean, that could be very well true, but it's not a match, so keep going.
I have no idea what the 6th match could be. Not a single clue.
Owens and Sammy versus Finn and Priest.
Really?
Yep. Steel City Street Fight for the tag championships.
Oh, they're in Pittsburgh. Oh, those poor people.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna go ahead and just skip this entire pay-per-view.
I'm gonna watch LA Knight versus The Miz. I've been enjoying the build to that. Of course, I'm drinking the LA NyQuil, you know.
Yeah. Can we just talk real quick? I want to throw this in here. Did you watch the celebration, the championship celebration on Dynamite with the Acclaimed, where they unveiled their not pink but actually red championship belts?
Yes.
And at one point, Bowens ended a sentence with "yeah," and the entire crowd went "yeah."
I did notice that.
It's like the what chant, but only cool. It's invading all of wrestling.
That's right.
But yeah, nothing on here for me. If somebody tells me that, like, if something really cool like we had both pitched happens with Nakamura Rollins, maybe I'll go back and check it out. But I don't care about any of that other stuff.
And I think there was a Jimmy versus Jay match that was announced, like before they even did any build for it on TV.
No, I mean, it definitely wasn't announced.
Right. No, but there was like match graphics on WWE.com for it, you know?
Well, it's not on Wikipedia.
I know it's not on Wikipedia. I'm just telling you, Jimmy or Jay, I forget which one, quit. So I don't know how that match could happen anyway, right?
Yeah, it would have to be unsanctioned.
Yeah.
Somebody would have to sign a hold harmless agreement.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough about that. Joe, did you know that there's a pay-per-view on Sunday as well?
There is.
Yes.
Sami Zayn's taken down to the ring. Is Kofi Kingston doing his thing? Ruby
Soho
on the show.
Bryan Danielson.
No. Is it the
Tribal Chief?
Yo!
Playing
Let's find out. Does Joe know the card?
Hey, Joe, Sunday, AEW, according to Wikipedia, AEW is holding a pay-per-view on Sunday entitled All Out. There are 9 announced matches, none of which are on the pre-show. Joe, do you know the card?
So, being that this card was thrown together on Wednesday, let's hope that I do. And Adam, I was going to tell you before we started recording that I'm like, because there's 2 pay-per-views, I'm going to play the jingle twice.
It's better that you don't. It pops.
Right. It's better that I don't because it pops you. I thought better. Right. Okay. So 9 matches. Oof. Let's see if we can remember them all. Okay. We have Kenny taking on Takeshita.
Yep.
We got OC taking on John Moxley.
That's 2.
We got Wheeler and Claudio taking on Eddie Kingston and Shibata.
That's 3. Okay.
We have Statlander taking on Ruby Riott.
Ruby Soho.
Right, Ruby Soho. Sure. The 8-person of Bullet Club Gold taking on Buck Farter? What would we call it?
You beat me to it. God damn it.
All right. Oh, we have the same writer. What can I tell you?
That's 5.
That's 5. We have Samoan Joe taking on Shane Taylor, whoever that is.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because obviously I have no idea who that is, but go on.
I only mention this because my nephew's name is Shane Taylor, and he could not be any more different than the Shane Taylor that is the professional wrestler.
Well, I assume your nephew isn't a very large, muscular black man.
No, he's a tall, skinny, redheaded kid.
Okay.
So those I think were the easy ones. Okay, so this is the problem. So because it's so out of mind, it's the collision matches that I've forgotten, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Luchasaurus against Darby.
That's correct.
It's Miro versus Hobbs.
Powerhouse Hobbs, yep.
And there's one more, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's Cole and MJF defending the ROH Tag Team Championship. Now, I'm not going to spoil this. Did you see who wins the Battle Royal?
I did not. I'll find out whatever on Rampage.
All right. So I'm not going to spoil who it is, but it's going to be an interesting match.
Okay.
Double J and Satnam Singh are going to win the Ring of Honor titles. Oh, wait.
Oh, God damn it. Well, again, it's the same situation where, like, we as a collective wrestling consciousness can accept Orange Cassidy losing to Moxley. The only way you can dethrone MJF and Cole is to have an equal powerhouse in Jarrett and Satnam, you know?
Yes, exactly.
But I don't know. I mean, this is maybe it wasn't a good idea to run a pay-per-view literally the next weekend after your largest show ever.
Correct.
And I'm not going to dunk on the pay-per-view at all because we've said many times that, you know, AEW pay-per-views sometimes on paper don't look the best, but you always enjoy it, you know? So I'm looking at this and Orange Cassidy versus Moxley. I'm like, win, lose, or draw, that's going to be an amazing match. And, you know, there's other things on here that I'm interested in. But, man, like, the best thing about AEW pay-per-views is that they're like every 3 months. And it's just so shocking and jarring to have one literally a week later.
Now there is, and again, Tony did the conference call today. There is talk of at least like one more women's match getting added on to the pre-show. One could only hope that they should put Saraya on the pay-per-view after she just won the belt, but who knows? And I have a feeling there might be other mitigating factors as to why this pay-per-view feels so slapdash together as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But unrelated to all of that, Adam, it's time for phone calls.
Oh, okay.
I think we all know that Orange Cassidy is winning, and that's the main event of the show, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I do. You know, but again, if it doesn't happen, kudos to him on his run. He'll have many more. You know?
Yes. All right, first call.
Hey, boys, it's Kenny, first time, long time. This day in wrestling history was the day that I won a raffle at the original Steel Stacks SmackDown. Get those tickets now if you haven't already for Steel Stack SmackDown 2. But today is the day that I won the raffle and has contained a skateboard deck from Home Base Skate Shop down there in Bethlehem. Great folks. And I bonked Adam in the head as hard as I possibly could with my victory bounty on the way past him. Got to make sure that was commemorated. Hopefully there won't be a sequel of that this year. Make sure if you're going to the show, bring all your canned goods, donate them for a great local cause. And breaking news, I hope Jungle Jack didn't get a piece of it. I hope Jungle Jack got the whole fucking thing. Woo!
Yeah, first of all, before we get into the Jungle Jack thing, I just got to say Kenny is right. He almost busted me hard way. I am very fortunate right now that I do not look like Don Callis.
Oh, I think Don Callis is putting makeup on that to make it look more pronounced.
I'd love to know the shoot on that as far as just, I want to pick his brain off record to be like, all right, how bad is it? Are you going to get something done about it? Are you cool with it? Does it freak you out every time you see it? Do you think it makes you look more evil and you like it? I want to know, in a non-kayfabe, what's going on with that scar.
And I just want to say, it was the date of Kenny's call. Thank you for calling, by the way, of the Steel Stack SmackDown anniversary show. I'm like, shit, was that a year ago today? But no, it was a year ago, over the weekend.
Ah, God damn it, Kenny. You should specify these things.
Listen, I do my due diligence, right?
Yeah.
All right, next call.
Hey, guys, it's Ben Pasco. Ben Pasco? What am I? Who am I? With this week's question. So I know everyone's making fun of Cash Wheeler for, his road rage incident, but as someone who lives in New England and has driven in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, I understand him. My question for you is, maybe not pull a gun level, but what is the thing that happens on the road that drives you crazy and is most likely to get you to commit a Cash Wheeler? For me, people getting slow in the passing lane on the highway, or people not keeping up with speed, because they're like, I'm on the speed limit. Listen, there's 10 of us going over. They can't arrest us all right? Take one for the team. All right, I'll hang up and listen. Bye.
It sounded like Ben was in the midst of his own road incident there.
Yeah, he's running from the cops.
Yeah.
I like it. 2 trucks driving parallel on a 2-lane highway and at the same exact speed. Okay. 2 tractor trailers, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that jumps to mind already. What about you?
So for me, when there's on a major highway, when there's road construction and they close one lane down, and they give you the heads up that hey, in a mile, half mile, whatever, we're down to 1 lane. I hate the person, and everyone is getting over into the 1 lane, but then you have that one person who speeds all the way up to where the lane about to merge, and then puts their turn signal on and waits for somebody to let them in.
Yeah, fuck those people.
Yeah, fuck those people forever.
Yeah. Or people with motorcycles, if you're in parking lot traffic where it's just a complete stop because there's an accident or whatever, or it's just super backed up because of people like you just mentioned, the motorcycles that ride on the shoulder. I'm hit a rock and bust your skull. Fucking going down the shoulder of the highway, zipping by everybody. God. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Ben.
But yes, thank you for your call, Ben. Next call.
Hello, gentlemen. Kevin here. Talking this week about stuff going on during WrestleMania week. Obviously, WrestleMania, SmackDown, Raw, all the indie shows, and discussion got to the Hall of Fame, which will be taking place in Philadelphia. Now, if we're talking nostalgia and history in Philadelphia and wrestling, there's kind of something that I'd be very curious about for Hall of Fame. Now, I think Paul Heyman goes in eventually at some point. Don't know if it'll be next year, but eventually he goes in. Now, the ECW ones, I'm kind of thinking I love ECW and I have fond memories of it, but the WWE feel the same, whoever's in charge, well, Junkyard Dog's in the Hall of Fame. True, but it's kind of different now. And X-Pac doesn't go in the Hall of Fame on his own, but absolutely goes in as part of DX. That makes sense. So there's certain things. I think that Paul Heyman goes in with, quote, the ECW originals, and you get like a bulk of people going in with him as ECW originals. I'd pick Tommy Dreamer, Raven, Sandman, Shane Douglas, Taz, and Sabu. That'd be my list. Because some people are already in the Hall of Fame, like the Dudleys. But my question to both of you is, do we see some sort of ECW contingent group, nominees, whatever, for a Hall of Fame next year at WrestleMania in Philadelphia? And if we do see any sort of ECW theme, who's going in? Thank you, guys. Looking forward to the show. Talk to you later.
I just have to say that the idea of inducting into the Hall of Fame, like, oh, ECW originals, and like here's like 5 people, here's like Raven and Sandman and Sabu or whatever. I think that sounds horrible, and it's just cringy enough for that to be something that they would potentially do.
Yeah, you know? I like, as Kevin was saying it, I'm like, Taz works for another company. Tom Dreamer works for another company, even though he's on good graces. They don't speak to Shane Douglas currently. Raven is still in the midst of a concussion lawsuit with the company, right? So now, like, there's like 4 guys out of the list of people that Kevin said, and even further still, if they do decide to induct Paul into the ECW, I think Paul's ego is too big to be in as the group of ECW originals. Either Paul's going in or not.
And I think Paul, even whether it be based on his pre-WWE work or his WWE work, or certainly the combination, he's more than deserving to be in the Hall of Fame by himself. There's 20 people in the Hall that have contributed less to wrestling than Paul Heyman. Right. But I'm not a big fan of inducting stables anyways. Like, I hated, this is the 4 Horsemen, this is DX, this is the NWO. I get it when it's a tag team, and that's fine, because especially if it's like a tag team that they've always been, you know, like you're synonymous as a tag team, whether it be, I don't know, the Steiners or whatever, Harlem Heat.
The Deadly Boys, like Kevin mentioned.
Yeah, like the Deadlies, if you want to induct them at some point, whatever, I get it. That's fine, but like, I don't like the stables, because I think of it like, yeah, this is stupid of me to say this, but like, I compare it to a sports Hall of Fame, and you don't have, you know, the 1927 New York Yankees on a plaque in the Hall of Fame. It's like, no, here's Ruth Gehrig DiMaggio. We're not inducting the stable of baseball players. You know, it's a different thing. So I don't like the idea of being like, oh, here's the ECW originals, because then it's going to be like, oh, we're inducting into the Hall of Fame all the people that invaded WWE from WCW during the invasion angle. Here's Buff Bagwell and Booker T and DDP. Right. You know, it's just like, here's all these storylines. We're going to start inducting matches, and we're going to start inducting promos or angles. And let's just, if you can't come up with enough people to induct on their own, then maybe scale it back and just induct 3 people a year, 4 people a year, or whatever.
So they have a formula to the Hall of Fame, right? They have someone who's living and not sad to look at.
I'm sure I'm taking a drink.
Okay, sorry. A woman. Yeah. Someone who's dead. And again, I hate to say it, a minority and a wild card. Like, that's their template. Like, that's who we need to fill for the Hall of Fame every year, right?
Yeah.
Now, Terry Funk is in the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the Funk Brothers tag team Funk wrestling family. I feel as though you can induct Terry this year as your dead person and to check that ECW box. Yeah. And still have 4 other people that you could put in. Because, again, you mentioned before, like, okay, you know, you have Scott Hall in as part of the NWO and as Razor Ramon. You've got Nash in as, you know, himself and as part of the groups. And you got Flair in multiple times. That. I feel as though Terry is somebody else who deserves whatever. Now, on that note, I could also see them, you know, because he was on the roster at the time. But again, he's too young. Like, I was kicking the tires on them putting Bray in this year, but I could see it being Terry as a solo.
I did not know that Terry Funk wasn't in there on his own, and shame on WWE for not thinking that that's that has enough merit on its own. Maybe it's just a way to get his brother in there. So I get it.
Well, it's like how Macho Man's in there as the Poffo wrestling family.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like you got to figure out a way to appease people or whatever. I think like an ECW thing would be cool, and I would totally watch it for the first time in a while. The Hall of Fame being it, but like I don't think that WWE cares about ECW as much as you and I do.
Right.
And they don't see it as this thing that would drive ticket sales.
Nope.
And like, yeah, maybe they would, let's throw a bone to a ECW person because we're in Philly, but it'll be somebody that's safe, somebody we've been working with, or as you said, Terry Funk, something that's expected and justified, but I agree with you with Bray Wyatt maybe getting in potentially right away, but if not soon. But I don't see there being an ECW class. I've heard that talked about ever since they announced Mania being in Philly, but I think it would be awesome. And if it was me doing it, like, are you asking me people that are reasonable? Like, can it happen? Because then you have to rule out people like Shane Douglas and, as you said, Taz maybe. I think AEW would let Taz go, but you're going to have the people that are on good terms with WWE, or you're going to induct Cactus one more time, as ECW Cactus Jack, and it would just be a bad idea because they wouldn't treat it seriously.
Right. I still think it's going to be Cactus or Terry Funk. Like I said, they're not going to do, and it's a very famous story that multiple people have stated this. Excuse me, that, when you had mentioned how WWE does not look at ECW as fondly as we do, that is 1,000% true. Multiple people in the company, when they've left the company, has stated that, there was a time when somebody would go through a table and the fans would chant ECW. Vince famously has told people that the reason the fans chant that is because WWE trained them to chant that at a table break.
Vince, why won't you die?
Now, before we get the pink button, now I don't screen these calls, Adam, beforehand. You know that. I respect the integrity of the voicemail line. If somebody calls in and says something scandalous, something scurrilous, something whatever, that's on them. We're just the outlet for them to say these things, Of
course.
But we got a call from someone. That was, I don't know how many levels of lawyers are involved in what happened, but they were on the ground this past Sunday. So, again, this is a call from other JB.
Hey there, Adam and Joe. Hopefully I get this in time. It's the other JB. Well, if you haven't noticed, I'm taking a little bit of a vacay, a little bit of some time off, because apparently the punker still wants to see how much of a MMA UFC career he could have later. But, I don't know about that. Anyways, in my time off, I'm laying back, catching up on some stuff, watching, this, that, and the other. And I figured that I should try to go back to where I started watching some wrestling stuff. One of the first matches I ever watched was a match between The New Day and The Bar. So I was wondering if y'all, this might be a bit of a black hole for y'all, but what have you got for Sheamus? All right, let me know.
The New Day versus The Bar was one of the first matches she ever watched?
Yeah.
Come on. Wow. God, how old are we?
Adam, we're very old. There was a time maybe about 6 to 7 years ago where I'd be like, oh, these goddamn kids, they grew up with Edge as their world champion, Yeah. And, it was true then, but, already, those kids are already oh, you grew up with, the New Day as a new thing,
Yeah.
Well, listen, this is what happens. The longer you stick around, the more and more people come and cycle in,
I gotta stop sticking around.
Yeah.
But, can we address the other JB and what they did about CM Punk?
Well, I have a feeling Ed might address that in one of his calls.
Gotcha. No, I just wanted to be not to deep dive into it, but the fact that nobody has seen hide or hair of Jungle Boy anywhere, right, and to have them call us, that's a big get.
Right.
after all the scandalous of like, what are we calling this thing? It's like Brawl Out 2, Brawl In 1, you know? Anyways.
We're calling it telephone, textograph, text Sean Ross Sapp.
Yeah, okay.
Text backup Hangman, text Nick Houseman, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, but best Sheamus recommendations.
So Sheamus had that potential for a very long time, and obviously JB only having watched, you know, that late in the Sheamus run where Sheamus was already teaming up with Claudio, you know?
Yeah. They've never seen like ECW Sheamus.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to recommend. Yeah. Sheamus's feud in WWE ECW with Goldust. It's really good, and I think that helped prime Sheamus for, you know, the shove that he ended up getting. You know, there was rumors that he was like always Triple H's workout buddy. He was this, he was that. But like, no, man, he was just a guy who busted his ass, and like, no matter what they gave him, he went out there and did it, and always put on good matches. And he's very physical, you know. But like those ECW matches with Goldust from like at the very beginning of his run.
Yeah. Sheamus is one of those guys that, like, I've never been a Sheamus fan. Like, I've never been like, oh, that was a great Sheamus match, or like, I can't wait to see this Sheamus promo. But when you look at, as you point out, like the body of work, like over all these years, and just always being like, not sometimes a top guy, but always a good, solid mid-carder, and like, yeah, he definitely had a Hall of Fame career, you know, non-problematic. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big thing. He's definitely non-problematic, but he came up in a different time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like that sort of has been beaten out of people.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see if the story of Mick is on here. They didn't pull it out, unfortunately, I guess. I was hoping the clip on his podcast of Mick talking about, remember they did the bit at WrestleMania one year where like the League of Nations came out and did whatever. And then, or it was like Foley was in the ring, Shawn Michaels in the ring, and Austin was in the ring, and the League of Nations came out, and they beat him up and they fended him off, right?
Yeah, they give the legends their pop, yeah.
So Mick tells a story about, like, he's going to get paired up in this little skirmish with Sheamus, and Sheamus has a reputation for, like, hitting really hard, and, you know, Mick's an older guy, and, you know, he was concerned that Sheamus was going to, like, maybe go easy on him out there. And he's like, well, I don't want Sheamus to compromise himself because he's trying to protect me. And again, I'm getting the story completely wrong, but if you could find the episode where Mick talks about it, and I was trying to find if they pulled it out as just a clip, and they didn't. But he essentially goes up to Sheamus and says, hey, when we're out there, you know, I don't want you to take care of me. I want you to treat me like you would anybody else, right? And okay. Sheamus is like, don't worry, fella, I got you. And so they go out there. And he goes, and Mick says, he goes, and obviously he says, outside of Terry Funk, he goes, I've never been hit harder in my life. He goes, and after that, I thought a little bit less about protecting those guys' integrity if I was going to do any physicality with them, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right, it's pink button time. It's time for Young Ed.
Yay.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. I just got back from Taco Bell. I had to cheer myself up. It's a sad day. They suspended CM Punk again for simply defending himself against some rich kid asshole that started shit and still had to finish it. And I made a lot of tweets about it today, including that the Young Bucks are balding, stupid Christian fucking losers, and I hate their guts.
All right.
But I was like, I'm going to save my big thoughts for At Odds.
Yay.
You guys get to hear it. And here's what I think. I think Punk should quit. And not like in a fuck them kind of way. Well, he'll probably be, but I mean, not for me. It's not that. I think he was way happier when he wasn't wrestling. I think he's fucking miserable again now. And I think you should just go home and just hang out with your wife and your dog and write some comics and shit, make some more horror movies, I guess.
All right.
But, yeah, he's just a much happier person when he's not a full-time wrestler. And, frankly, they don't want him there anymore either. So why would he want to be there? Just go home, right? Because don't force yourself to be a place. Like, if the entire soon-to-be-named network didn't want Hayabusa on, I just wouldn't do it anymore. I wouldn't, make a separate podcast network for me. Yeah, man, I think he's proved enough. He's like 2-time world champion. He's had a career, and he's much happier not having one. Okay, bye.
I love the idea of there being a rogue second soon-to-be-named network just for Hayabusa. I'd join him. I don't know, if that would mean at odds would go over there with him, or if I had to shoot, I'd have to, party lines would be drawn. I'd just have to go over with Ed.
What I would do is I would record this old school style where we both record our individual sides in Audacity.
Yeah.
And it'd be 2 podcasts that get released, just your side and just my side. Your side would be on the Collision version of Soon to Be Named Network with Hayabusa, and my side would be on the main show, on the main feed on Soon to Be Named Network, and then you'd have to download both versions and play them together to get the full show.
Yeah, and somehow one of our voices would come from the left ear and the other one would be on the right ear. It's like you're having a conversation. I get it. I don't think you should answer this question because I'm sure your answer is that Phil should just go away. So I don't even know if you should be allowed. You're biased. But I'll say before you formulate your political answer here, I don't care if Phil is happy. So yes, him going away would probably increase his happiness. Going home to AJ, whatever, that's great. But I want Phil on my TV. Not only doing a wrestle, cutting promos, telling us when he's telling lies, and starting shit, because I think that's very entertaining. So this is a perfect Ed take. I'd rather me be entertained than Phil be happy.
And I'll say this. Do we know that Phil was happy when he was away from wrestling?
I don't think anything makes Phil happy. I think Phil's very happy for short periods of time.
Right. I think Phil convinces himself that he's happy. I think Phil needs that conflict in his life, that agitation, even if he has to stir things up. And a lot of times he convinces himself that he's happy and that he wants to do something again. But everything that he's done since he left WWE the first time, his real home, I don't know if you saw his Cauliflower Alley speech where he really talked about how much of a fan he was of what Triple H has done in recent years. Definitely not political maneuverings there. But Phil, I think, is someone who, if he doesn't have that pot to stir, he's just going to make trouble at home. You know what I mean? I'm sure Larry and April conspired of how can we get him out of the house? Let's sign him up for movies. Let's get him an agent. Let's call Marvel to have him write comic books. Let's have him go to the UFC. He likes doing that mixed martial arts stuff, right? And he fails at all of it. And then they're like, shit, what else is left, right?
Yeah.
So then they finally, after 7 years, get him to go back into wrestling, and he fucked it up twice.
Do you think, obviously wrestling is its own thing where, it's gossip spreads like wildfire in wrestling, and there's so much social media about it, and it's its own, weird ecosystem. Do you think that at each one of Phil's stops in between WWE and AEW, whether it be Marvel Comics or UFC or acting or whatever, do you think there are similar blow-ups between him and co-stars, co-plotters on comics, trainers in UFC that drove him out of all those places? We just haven't heard about them?
Yes.
I agree. I think that's possible.
If
everybody in the room is an asshole, then maybe you're the asshole.
I mentioned this in the Discord, and I saw somebody else say this on Twitter. This is the company that worked together as a family to keep private what Brody and the Huber family was going through when John was sick. And that was that togetherness and that secretive and working together is one of the things that helped inspired Phil to maybe give AEW a try. And then the minute Phil shows up there, all of that familiarity and, familyness and everything else goes out the window. Now, is it because Cody left and Phil came in? Is it the two things happening at the same time? Or is it just that wherever Phil goes, a shitstorm follows?
A, B, and C, possibly.
Yeah.
With that being said, I like Phil, and I want him on my TV, and I hope he doesn't go anywhere. Fucking get rid of JB. And no offense, other JB, but if I have to pick sides, I'd much rather Jack Barry not be on my television.
Yeah, he's too buck-pilled, you know.
Yeah.
All right, Ed does call one more time.
Okay.
Hey, Joe and Adam, it's Ed. So AIW announced this week that they are bringing in a hero of mine and somebody that I've been begging for them to book since 2015 when I first started going, and they are bringing in the Boogeyman. I'm very, very excited, but this will be a meet and greet that I have to do.
Right.
These don't typically go well for me. I've only done a couple. Scarlett Bordeaux, I met her at WrestleCon, and she made me touch her. I tried to hug her hand, and she gave me shit about it. Then at the same time, like maybe an hour later, I met Mick Foley, and he was not pleased when I brought up the dude. And I just wonder, especially because you, Adam, you're you're skilled at this.
What?
What got any tips? Because I'm bad. I'm really bad at this. And I'm going to get off the phone now because I'll be in my car and I got to get out. I'm scared. Okay, bye.
Well, I'd like to thank Ed for understanding and recognizing that I am a pro when it comes to these things. And Joe, I mean, over the last 5 years, who has gone to more meet and greets, you or I?
That's true. You.
So if anybody knows the modern meet and greet scene, it's me. So I'll take this one. Cleaner, I got this. I'm going to ask you this question, Ed. Obviously, Ed likes to go and like with Mick Foley, like, hey, the reason why I'm coming to talk to you, Mick Foley, or in this case, Boogeyman, is because I'm such a fan, and here are examples A and B why I love you. And that sometimes can be taken in an awkward way by the talent, and then Ed in turn might feel awkward, and we would have a whole Mick Foley Ed situation all over again. As much as it might not feel like your money's worth, do the Adam Van thing. Go up there, say hi, big fan, take your picture, shake a hand, whatever, get an autograph, and then leave. Because if you don't say anything to screw up the interaction, they won't say anything to screw up your your take on them, your opinion on them. And then you'll get to say, I met the Boogeyman, I got my picture, he didn't say something mean to me, I didn't say something stupid to him, and like it's a perfect scenario. But if you go up to him and be like, oh man, I named my dog, or I don't know if it's his dog or his cat. Yeah, I named my cat after you, and like you're my favorite wrestler of all time, and I would eat worms for you if you asked me to, and I've been trying to get you booked in AEW since 2015. Like, those are things that could result in an adverse reaction. So that's my advice. Just be in and out. It's basically like you won't get this, but you're ordering soup from the soup Nazi.
There you go.
Just place your order, take 2 steps to the right, take what you get, and leave.
I make these 2 suggestions, and actually Ed and I's friendship kind of blossomed from me giving him advice on how to handle the Scarlett Bordeaux situation, right? Mm-hmm. So I say you don't have to worry about any sort of closeness or contact or whatever it is. I'm sure the Boogeyman has a thing that he does for all of his meet and greet pictures, Yeah. I'm with Adam in that less is more, but I think if you go up to him and just say, big fan, I even named my cat after you. And that's enough.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you might want to do a little digging and see if he's a cat guy or not, because that might offend him.
Nope. I mean, I think just the whole idea of saying you have a cat is enough. If he asks follow-up questions, then feel free to to elaborate. But if he's just like, don't keep going. Don't take that silence as a reason to just be like, oh, wait, I'm going to throw more stuff at you, But
or failing that, that day, that weekend, if you have the time to do so, you are Pat's assistant, and you go into the show early, so you don't have to worry about the line, you don't have to worry about people. Right as they're about to let in, you go over, you get your thing, and I would even say maybe don't even stay for the show.
Why is that?
just because I think and again, I can't speak for Ed, but if Ed has that moment, that meet and greet moment with Boogeyman, and it goes well, and then Ed lingers in the building longer,
he might have a second interaction.
There might be a second interact, like whether it be like Ed's like, oh, you know what, I really wanted to tell Boogeyman this. The first time went well. I'm gonna go and say it. I'm gonna go find him out, or like Boogeyman's gonna be like out of character or out of gear or out of something, and they're gonna bump into each other in the bathroom or like in the line for a hot dog or something, and then that's gonna be a bad interaction. Like with eyes on the Boogeyman, get your thing and go home.
Yeah, I can see that. Or somebody needs to like personally chaperone Ed, which is very difficult. I've seen many people attempt.
Right.
You know.
It's
but
tough.
maybe a team of people keep Ed away from Boogeyman after a couple drinks or a couple sips of tea or whatever, you know?
Yes.
But great question, Ed. And Ed's panel at Colossal Con got delayed until 11 p.m. and he's happy about it. But that's interesting. But go check out Ed.
Yeah, I'll PayPal you $20 next week. I'm not going. I'm sorry, Ed.
I'm on the fence still. We'll see.
All right. If you decide that you're for sure going, we'll work something out.
All right. Well, we got time.
Maybe I'll come meet you. We'll go up together. I don't know.
All right.
This feels like a very late night for an old man, you know?
My body's 43, but my mind thinks I'm 23.
Okay. Where am I looking here? Okay, so hey, ways you can support us. There's no TeePublic sale this week, but that's okay. When they let me know, I'll let you know.
New shirt designs.
Oh, there's some new shirt designs. There was some discussion this past week inspired by Final Wrestling Plays, of course. And DeWicki was able to whip some things up real quick. Whether it be Bad Terry lies or Bad Terry still lies or Bad Terry sucks eggs or whatever it is, go check out the TeePublic store. They were up there as the sale was kind of winding down on Monday, and we'll give you a heads up if they go back, in the next sale. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to upload the fourth one that DeWicki gave us.
Yeah, I've just been, things got busy. Like, I had like a bunch of free time when that happened, and just like, it's been rough the last couple days, but I'll get on it.
Yeah.
So we have that, of course. Steel Stack SmackDown 2 is coming up in just 2 short weeks. Couple matches announced so far. We mentioned Matt Mikowski and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams taking on Delirious and Frightmare. Max the Impaler taking on Delmi Exo. Nice to see some names coming back that we haven't seen at the LVAC in quite some time. We don't know who's on the teams, but it looks like we're going to get a 5-on-5 Team Big Dan taking on Team Avery Good, professional wrestler. I can't believe he lied and is coming back to professional wrestling. And we also have officially announced Brandon Kirk and Lucky 13 taking on Puff and Jeff Cannonball.
Oh, okay. Must have been late breaking because I haven't looked up.
No, that was like 2 days ago, maybe. Lucky put up like a little video about it, announcing it,
Was there an LVAC posting about it?
I think so. I know there's a match graphic for it, too.
Right. Yeah, too much video games for me. Not enough social media.
There you go. And there's still 1, 2, 3, 4 more matches to be announced, and obviously the 5-on-5 is still going to get filled out here as well. I have the full card if you want to know. But
I want to know: is there going to be a Wheeler Yuta meet and greet opportunity?
There is. His name is mentioned alongside the meet and greet stuff with Smoke Train Charles Wright and D'Lo Brown. So,
but there's nothing you have to buy in advance like Eddie Kingston last year, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I want to get my picture taken with Utes. I'm gonna be like Ed. I'm gonna let him know how angry I am about IWTV 100.
I'm gonna ask him. And so this is one of those weird things. He's never been on an LVAC show, and he and I's paths in professional wrestling kind of crossed. Yeah. When he started doing AIW, I had stopped doing AIW. When he started doing Chikara, I had stopped doing Chikara. And he's a guy, I'm a really big fan of. I've heard nothing but nice things about him as a person. And I'm a really big fan of the stuff that he's done in wrestling, on the indies and in AEW. And, I'm looking forward to going up, shaking his hand, telling him I'm a fan and I appreciate what he does. And You know, when I get my Mark picture with him, I'm going to ask him to put his shitty chain on, and, you know.
All right, cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's coming up soon.
2 weeks this Saturday. I'll see you there, right?
Yep.
Everybody. And also, and lastly, of course, you can help us out by making any and all of your purchases through our Amazon affiliate link. When you click on links to various merchants on the site and make a purchase, this can result in the site earning a commission. Affiliate programs and affiliations include, but are not limited to, the eBay Partner Network.
Yeah.
And is this the longest that we've gone on the show without mentioning the Patreon?
Quite possibly.
So I will be recording the latest conversations with Joe this Saturday with Hollow Wicked, and I have a feeling it'll probably come out very shortly thereafter. I was given one thing specifically to ask Hollow Wicked about that has implications coming up in the near future. But other than that, it's going to be the same interviews that I've done with, other Chikara people. Primarily it's going to be about their involvement with the Shutdown Angle and Ashes and everything else like that. But I've I've a funny story or two that I'm going to call Hollow Wicked out about on the show. I've been practicing saying Hollow Wicked publicly instead of saying his real name. And then I got to figure out who I'm going to do for next month, right?
Yeah. And I was going to record you audio, but I'm just going to write down a question and email it to you before Saturday.
Okay, perfect.
But all right, Joe. Yeah, join the Patreon. That's on Patreon. The draft show. We talked about Patreon at the very beginning, but
it feels like so long ago.
Yeah, the draft show is on the Patreon, but it is there for free. And the Discord is the reason why I have no idea what's going on Twitter, because I just look at Discord now. So join the Discord if you're a patron. But I think that's it for the main show.
You're not going to plug any other people's podcasts that we're friends with or anything, or soon to be named network? Or?
Yeah, I guess. Longbox Heroes After Dark, We Need Wrestling, Porch Talk, Viewer's Choice, Indie Wrestling Guide, Wings on Wings, Hayabusa, and Final Wrestling Place.
I need anabolic steroids from this doctor right now. Anabolic steroids is a logical next step.
My apologies, almost screwing that up.
That's all right. Now it's time for Ed's favorite part of the show.
Yes, Ed's favorite.
Some might cost a little. Some might cost a lot. But I'm the $100 Vansky. And your figures will be bought.
So, Joe, you won't get this reference, but I'm sure you've heard of the show because Todd brings them up every once in a while. Are you familiar with the show Pardon the Interruption on ESPN?
Yes, through Todd, yes.
Okay.
I know he's a fan.
So that is a show that's on every day at 5:30, every weekday. And what they do is it's a half-hour talking head show. And then they after the show's over, they go to Sports Center. And about 10 minutes into the show, there's another segment with the guys from PTI, but it's on Sports Center. But that segment doesn't air in Canada because Canada, for whatever reason, where they air PTI, they don't air Sports Center or they don't air the complete version. So at the end of every episode of Pardon the Interruption, when they're throwing over to Sports Center, Tony Kornheiser waves a flag and says, "Goodbye, Canada," because that's the last part that Canada will see, even though the United States will see them in a little bit. So this is a roundabout way for me to say at the end of the main show, I'm just going to say goodbye, Ed, even though we're continuing the podcast. So he's already gone, so he's not going to hear any of this, but for future reference.
Right.
But, Joe, did you buy anything this week?
I did, actually. I bought 2 things this week.
Oh, okay. What's one of them?
So one of them is, inspired by, if you listen to Longbox Heroes, that we talk about, like, genre stuff and a lot of the, Marvel movies and stuff. And Todd and I are both big Star Wars fans, so we do watch all the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff. And the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka came out this past week. And I'm not a Clone Wars guy. I never watched the cartoons or anything else like that. So all of this is like a new world of Star Wars people to me. And I was introduced to a new character. Some would say maybe the greatest character in fiction of the last 50 years.
And so I gotta say before you go any further, and I'm fine if you tiptoe around it, but I haven't seen any of the episodes yet of Ahsoka, so I'm not going to know who you're referring to. But
okay, so I always watch the shows right before we record, and I do my best to avoid spoilers. But the day that I was getting ready to watch the show, Hasbro Pulse or whatever put out like, hey, starting tomorrow, here's all the pre-orders for all the characters from the show, right? They're doing all 6-inch Black Series figures, and they're doing a couple 3 3/4, right?
Yep.
And they're doing a 6-inch figure, Black Series, whatever, for Chopper, aka Chop.
Okay.
And do you know from Star Wars lore the R5D4 like astromech droids, like they're orange or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, Chopper is a sassy one who has little arms that come out of the side of his like robot head.
Okay.
So he can find stuff while he's in the back of the ship, and he's sassy. And I was dying. It was the best thing ever. And then when I saw that Chopper was one of the figures, I put it in the Fig Daddy Cool thing on the Discord, and I'm like, do I need to buy a Chopper action figure? And it was a resounding yes. So
okay.
I pre-ordered the Chopper action figure.
I saw the new Marvel Legends that went up for pre-order are back to windowed boxes. Did it say whether these were windowless or windowed?
These are windowed. All the new stuff is windowed.
Nice. Yeah, when I saw those Legends solicited earlier today, I was like, oh, we're finally out of the Dark Ages.
Yeah. And like I said, I saw the Marvel ones go up, and I'm like, oh, I could use that Spider-Man. It's a windowed box, but I didn't love it, you know?
Yeah. I'm probably going to get the Winter Soldier Captain America one, you know?
Of course.
My first weekly purchase, Joe, I don't play the all heat, no heaters, but I am a little bit fired up and not in a good way about this. So a month or two ago, I had seen, I think it was at San Diego, they had like a panel for Funko, and they were showing they were loose boys. They weren't in the boxes, but they showed all of like, here's all the upcoming NFL Funko Pops that are coming out this season. And they were just all on a shelf. And I think the picture I saw was like a cell phone out of focus picture. So it was hard to make out what was there, but I could tell that there was a couple Steelers ones. And you could tell like one of them was TJ Watt, whatever. So yesterday, again, I didn't know when they were coming out, but I knew, oh crap, I need more Steelers Funkos because of course. So yesterday, Fanatics, who does occasionally have exclusive Funkos, put up for what I thought was a pre-order, put up a Kenny Pickett Funko. I'm sorry, Kenny by God Pickett Funko Pop, and this is the rookie figure of Kenny Pickett. But I need it because I have all the Steelers Funkos. So it's exclusive to Fanatics. It's $15, which is whatever. That's kind of the going rate for a store exclusive,
right?
And you have to pay shipping. It was like $5 shipping. So I'm like, well, I'm going to order 2, and don't make a Todd joke there, but I'm going to order 2. Because it's my guy. I want to make sure I get a mint one. It's been years since I've ordered a pop from Fanatics, so I don't know what their shipping situation is. Let me just get 2. If I get a mint one out of the deal, I'll be happy. If I have a second one, I got to sell or just hold on to whatever. So I spend $40 after tax and shipping for 2 Kenny Pickett Funkos. I'm very happy. This morning, I get a shipping notification that they're shipping. So I'm like, yay, this is awesome. Apparently they're in stock. And then later on in the afternoon, I get an email from Fanatics saying you may also be interested in this. They put up a whole second wave of NFL Funkos independent of what they put up yesterday. And today it was TJ Watt from the Steelers. So I had to go and order the TJ Watt in the same exact way, 2 Funkos plus shipping plus taxes, because they staggered them and I couldn't just order them together because I didn't know if they were going to sell out yesterday. So I had to order the Kenny right away, you know? but I basically paid double for shipping. And oh, by the way, like 20 minutes after I ordered the TJ Watt, that shipped too. But so I got some cool Funkos, but I'm mad about the process of them staggering the releases when they knew they had them, you know?
So how is the Funko purge going, Adam?
I have a big pile, and our local comic shop told me he was buying that Silver Age collection, if you remember. The most recent one. Which one, right?
Right.
Which giant collection of Silver Age books did he buy recently? But basically, he was about to buy those, but he just made the deal for those books, so he asked me to kind of hold off for a couple weeks. So I got a big old tote and a half full of Funkos that are going to the shop soon.
All right.
I will always buy every single Steelers Funko Pop because I've told the story before. I would not buy Funkos. I thought they were stupid. But Todd bought me for my birthday a Roethlisberger one. This is probably like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Bought me a Roethlisberger one. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I was like, this is not bad for a one-off thing. And then I Googled it. I was like, are there any other Steelers ones? And there wasn't. It was just the one Roethlisberger, and I was like, okay, this is a perfect beginning, middle, and end of my Funko collection. I just have the one, and I'm good. And then they came out with I think it was Antonio Brown from the Steelers. I'm like, all right, well, if that's the only two, I'm fine with that. And then the rules kept getting expanded.
I think around that same time, probably a little after, I'd got Todd as a gift one of the Doctor Who Funko Pops.
From like Books A Million or Borders or whatever was there?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was definitely a Dalek one, right? Because the Dalek one doesn't look like a Funko Pop. It just looks like a giant Dalek in comparison to everything else. So I'm like, okay, that kind of looks cool, you know? And then I think Todd, like, he didn't fall too far down, but I think he does end up having one of every Doctor and the stupid robot dog. And yeah.
Well, I was thinking somebody had got him from either Books A Million or whatever the equivalent is, the Scarfy Doctor, because it was exclusive to that store. And he ended up opening it and displaying it on the box. And then I pointed out to him like years later, I was like, that's like, if you have the box, that's a very expensive pop. But don't let him fool you. He has a ton because I've brokered many deals of like getting him. Like he has the White Stripes, 2 Johnny Cash ones.
Oh, he's a big music guy one. Yeah.
Yeah, a ton of AC/DC ones. You know, he has a bunch of Doctor Who ones, as you mentioned. So if he ever sticks his nose up at Funkos, I have the receipts.
No, he doesn't stick his nose up at them. But, I just say, like, that's kind of like, you get the one. And a lot of times you make that decision, like, am I going to just stick with one or am I going to get dozens,
Yeah. Hundreds upon hundreds upon
right. Hundreds. Luckily for me, for the longest time, for some reason, the Marvel ones were bobbleheads.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed, they were Funko like looking, but they were bobbleheads. It was whatever Marvel's deal with them was. And I didn't like that, so I didn't get a ton of those. Like I could have got hosed on like every Spider-Man person,
Yeah.
But like for WWE ones, I people get them for me as gifts, and I'm like, oh, thank you, whatever. The only ones they haven't done a Dusty one yet, have they?
Look, keep talking. I'm going to pull up the Funko
you
app.
Pull
I'm
that
not
up.
Sure.
Because the only ones that I wanted was when they did the Vince. I got a Vince, and I got a Piper, and I got a Macho Man. So I could, like, set up that angle from November of 1991 where, like, Macho and Piper, Macho, Piper, and I have the Piper. So it's Macho, Piper, Flair, and Vince. So I could set up that angle where like the three of them are doing commentary and Flair comes out and he has the chair and he makes like he's going to go after Piper, but instead he like lays out Vince instead.
Yeah.
So like I have those and they're opened,
Yeah. So there is a Dusty Rhodes Funko.
Oh, okay.
It's Polka Dot Dusty.
Yeah, of course.
And like apparently it's like a relatively new release. Like it started hitting stores probably in the last month or so. You remember when like Mr. Tim was talking about getting the Cody Rhodes Walmart exclusive?
Yeah.
It was in that same like assortment, so to speak.
Right.
So however long ago that was.
I couldn't remember if I had seen it and it wasn't out yet or it was like out just recently. I would probably pick up the Dusty one just because Dusty's awesome,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've probably seen it, but because it's not something that I wanted, like I didn't give it a second thought. But if I see one, I'll give you the Iggy, and you can let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I see like random WWE commons all the time, you know?
Right.
What else did you buy, Joe?
Well, this past Friday, I'm not really sure what the reasoning for it was, but I start getting notifications of something called the Target Fall Geek Out, where there was going to be some sort of new line, new design, new something of McFarlane figures.
Yeah, they do this all the time, and then like each week or day or whatever, it'll be like, oh, this day's McFarlane, this day's Hasbro, this day's Lego, whatever. But go ahead.
Right. So, whatever it was, they did a Sinestro core, like yellow and black Sinestro.
Okay, like the McFarlane multiverse figures, right?
Yeah.
And is it exclusive? Like, is it gold label? What they call it?
It says it's Collector's Wave. I'm trying to... Here. I'm going to pull it up on the screen.
Okay.
So there's the figure...
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I see those. Those are a larger box than the standard multiverse figures. I've liked the presentation of those boxes.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a character that I needed yet, you know?
Well, so again, this iteration of Sinestro I need. Any iteration of Sinestro they put out, I'm going to get. The Captain Cold that they put out for this was like New 52 Captain Cold, where he has like cold powers.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Cold Gun. If they do like the old school Cold Gun Parka Captain Cold. And that's one of the things that's kind of saved me on these as well, is they haven't done a ton of the Flash villains, and the ones that they've done, they're like, oh, here's Mirror Master, but he's Joker-fied. And I'm like, I don't need that. I need the classic 60s designs of all the rogues. I need they do a Captain Boomerang. They like Flash is the best rogue gallery in all of comics, and if they do like these 7-inch figures like this, I would absolutely have to get all of them.
Did you? Again, I know the answer to this is no, but they just announced a parka wearing, like 3D sunglasses wearing, Cold Gun Captain Cold Funko Pop.
No,
he looks really cool.
I'm sure he does. I'm okay.
All right. But yeah, that's cool. That's Yellow Lantern Sinestro. Can't go wrong with that, you know?
Hell yeah. And like I said, I wish I would have waited, because, obviously, because of you, again, I give you kudos that I try to get these things through Entertainment Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And if I waited like 4 days, I probably could have gotten the Sinestro and the Chopper together from Entertainment Earth instead of it being 2. I could probably cancel the orders and reorder them. But,
you absolutely can.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do that when we're done here.
Yeah, I mean, because I assume if you ordered that Sinestro figure from Target, you probably paid shipping, right?
So I canceled it from Target once I saw that it went up on Entertainment Earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they did increase the threshold of free shipping on Entertainment Earth recently, like very recently. So I remember it was 60 not too long ago. I'm pretty sure it's 75 now. So that might change your thing, because I was going to order that Ruby Roundhouse that I mentioned last week from Entertainment Earth, but because it was like a $30 figure, I was like, well, I don't have enough stuff I'm going to shoehorn onto my order to get up to $75, you know?
Right.
But, all right. Anything else for you?
No, that was it. 2 things for myself. I would say that's pretty big. That doesn't happen very often.
No. And it's also, we're even on weekly purchases, more or less, because I have one other thing.
Oh, okay.
I had an eBay save search set up for a while. Again, this is another success story for eBay save searches. If you remember, a couple months ago, maybe probably closer to a year, I bought the WWE Basic figure of Miss Renee Young, the rookie figure of Miss Renee Young. And it was mint on card. It was a beautiful figure, respectfully. And I bought that. I was happy about it. But then I realized shortly thereafter that there was a chase available of that figure. And by chase for a basic, it just meant that they threw in a championship belt. So I'm just shooting you a text message of the figure in question. So I set up a save search for that figure because I needed it, Joe. Like I can't respectfully own a Renee Young figure if it's not the rarer version. And if I'm going to be the Michael Jordan of Renee Young figure collecting, I need both versions. So I had that save search going for a long time, and it finally went off maybe a week ago. And the guy only wanted it was like something like $10 shipping with like $1 starting bid. So I added it to my watch list, and it was supposed to end. The auction was going to end when we were about 20 minutes into the draft this past Monday. So I got a notification that your item is ending soon. I think it was like the 15-minute warning. And I said to the guys before we started recording, I was like, we might have to delay this. I need to bid on this. And they're like, oh, you don't need it. You don't need it. So I'm like, all right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my max bid in, which is very much unlike me. I'm a big sniper when it comes to eBay, because I don't like giving people an option to counterpunch. And I send it to your phone, by the way. I don't like giving people the opportunity to counterpunch, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to send a massive offer of $10, and we'll see what happens. And then I put my phone down, I did the podcast, and then when we got off the air, I looked at my phone, and I am the proud owner of this Renee Young Chase figure, complete with the championship belt that she probably never came within 100 feet of looking at, but whatever. Actually, it looks like the Daniel Bryan belt. No,
I was going to say, I don't like the look of the belt, but
the belt is definitely a mashup, but it was dirt cheap. I feel like I ended up getting it like I said, the shipping was $10. Oh, $7.50 because like somebody tried bidding in at the last minute. But I need it, Joe. I need it. Like I can't put my finger on why I needed to have a complete Renee Young collection, but I got it now, so I'm very happy. And don't tell Mox.
Oh, that's greasy.
That's unwarranted. I don't think that was very greasy. I'm a figure collector. I'm a completist.
I'm gonna have to pot that down for next time. That was a little louder than I thought. Anyway, I don't know. I'm telling Mox. You're lucky he has a flip phone.
No, please don't tell Mox.
All right.
But that's all I have.
All right. So I am gonna go ahead and I looked because I had my previous orders out there of the 2 LA Knight basics, the Chopper, and the the Sinestro. And you are right, Entertainment Earth at $79 or more for free shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Those 4 figures together is $80.78.
Can I just negate what I just said, though?
What?
My only concern, if it was me, is Entertainment Earth does not buy lots of wrestling figures.
Okay.
Are they still available to order? The
Yes.
LA Knights, specifically.
To pre-order, yes.
To pre-order with the same date as what you were originally promised?
Yes.
Okay, that was my only concern, is that like if they somehow closed the pre-orders or have a second date listed, that you would somehow get out. Yeah, by all means, cancel and reorder. I do it all the time.
That's what I'm going to do when we're done here.
All right, there you go. More money saved.
That's what we got to do, baby.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for me, Joe.
All right. Hey, thanks everyone for listening. This was episode 257 of At Odds with Wrestling. For Joe, for Adam, this is Joe. How about that? For Adam, this is Joe saying thanks for listening. Be safe out there and enjoy some wrestling.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.